Think you've got big assets? Find out how to protect them in today's episode of the Tradies Business Show. Got big assets? How well are they protected? Find out in... Why is this so hard? Hard.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show, helping you get off the tools and into true business ownership so you can spend more time doing the things that matter most. Now, here are your hosts, Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark.
Welcome to another episode of the Tradies Business Show, and Merry Christmas, everyone. Seems we're sitting here celebrating Christmas this week.
Merry Christmas. Bar humbug and all that stuff for all the blokes out there.
That's it.
Stringing up Christmas lights on the gutter.
That's it. Hope Santa is good to you. So, at this time of year, we thought it's really important to give a community safety message. And that is,
drink
boys,
and ride your kid's scooter.
That's it. You are not 5, so don't think you can do a somersault on the trampoline.
Oh, come on. I was really looking forward to that, Michaela. You've just ruined my Christmas.
Or try and do your BMX tricks that you used to do when you were 11.
And it does happen, doesn't it?
It does. So we thought we'd talk about, the importance of protecting you, your biggest asset, and if you don't, how that can affect your business.
And it's all too common thing that we see people who have, well, not just injuries, but unfortunately illness these days, and can't work and can't earn an income, which is fine if you're an employee. But we all think of our biggest asset as our house or our car even, or perhaps our work vehicle. But the reality is our biggest asset is our capacity to earn an income and pay all the bills.
That's it. And if you're not able to work and you don't have any backup plans, that can not only affect your business but your family and everything in your life as well.
And look, one great example is, unfortunately, we probably all know somebody who's been touched by the big C, by cancer, and statistically, Australians actually have a 1 in 3 chance of being diagnosed with cancer before age 75.
Wow, and that is scary.
And my mum's just been through it. I've got a client who had testicular cancer and couldn't work for 12 months in his business. So, that's a real threat to our livelihood. And what do we do? What happens if we actually can't work because we're sick or injured? That's
right. And I think you were saying before that 95% of Australians don't have adequate cover for things like this. So I think it's an important topic to cover.
So, yeah, look, it is dry as toast, this topic. And there is no way to make this sexy, but I think the seriousness of it is, please listen through. There are some great tips in here and some insights into how you can actually, look after yourself and protect yourself and your family. And if you make it all the way to the end, let us know. Write a review for us and say, I listened to the whole thing, and I don't know, we'll find something in the bottom drawer here and send you a prize or something like that.
And I think the funny thing is, we did record this a little while ago, but what's happened to our guests since we recorded the episode? It's sadly kind of funny.
So Adrian, who you're about to hear from, not long after we actually recorded this interview with him, he's a mountain bike rider. Obviously not a very good one, because he crashed his mountain bike, broke his collarbone, fractured or broke 6 ribs, and punctured his lung.
Wow.
So he's now walking, but he's a walking example of how important having good income and life insurance really is. So.
It is. Great. Well, let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Get it over with.
Okay.
So joining us today, we have Adrian Reid from Stream Financial. Adrian's an expert in life insurance, which is one of the most exciting topics, I think, that you could possibly ever tune into. So hold on to your hats, guys, while we hear all about life insurance. But Adrian, welcome to Tradies Business Show, and tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Thanks, Warwick, and really appreciate being here today. As you can see, I'm from some other territory of Australia, or here, but I've been here in Australia for over 11 years, and in that time I've been fortunate enough to get involved in the life insurance and income protection industry. We have a business based on the Sunshine Coast, but we have clients all the way across Australia and internationally even. We have a lot of tradies who are clients, and for good reason. At the same time, we also have a lot of tradies who are on claim at the moment. My background has always been in small business. I've, over the years, still have a number of small businesses, from coffee shops. I have to be honest and say that I do not do any trade work at home. I've been banned from that just because of the nature of my skill set. But I have a lot of friends who are tradies and run their own businesses. At the end of the day, the difficulties associated with work also apply to me. So, for example, I'm so busy running around getting my businesses sorted out that I forget to focus on some of the more detailed aspects of the business, and also in particular where there's certain aspects that I don't understand. So kind of those seem to get put away in the drawer for later. And the reality is we just never get to that later date. But yeah, that's my background, been doing it for a number of years, and specialize in the industry.
Thanks, mate. So tell me, why should I have life insurance? Why should our listeners actually even have life insurance?
Yeah, Warwick, a good question, I guess. Unfortunately, we've made our lives a bit more complicated than they were, 50, 100 years or 200 years ago. In those days, if something happened to you, you would either just pass away, and although people would grieve, you weren't actually a financial loss. As we've made our lives more complicated, we've taken on things like debt. We've also taken on family commitments to people. And the reality is that if something does happen to us, and not so much just life insurance, I think the big one, life insurance is critical, but more important is if something happens to you and you don't die, what happens? Because you actually become a financial burden on your family and friends. So the importance of it is not getting any less. It's actually, as people have been able to, doctors have got clever enough to save our lives, they've actually complicated it even further for us. So it's really important to make sure that your family is secure if something should happen to you. That's why.
Thanks, mate. It's something that I see a lot of people struggle to understand the value in it. I've had personal experience with it, and I've seen a lot of clients the same way. But I know, Michaela, you've had some personal experience with it as well. What do you see with your clients, Michaela?
Yeah, well, a lot of them see that they don't think they need it, or they think they have it, but they're not really sure. And they just don't put it as a priority, the phone ringing and getting the invoicing out and the next job quoted, that's what they see as the priority. And they don't realise how critical it is that they need to look after themselves in the future. And it's just so easy to fall off a ladder or hurt themselves, or, what happens if their family is injured. So what do you find with some of your current clients that are claimed at the moment? What's some of the stories that you've got with your customers at the moment?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of current claims, at the moment we've got a number. We've got a plumber who, unfortunately, probably 13, 14 months ago, he had some issues. First of all, he had some issues with his knee. He twisted his knee in a drain, so went on income protection claim and got paid for that. That lasted, if memory serves, it was probably 6 or 7 weeks. And then got a call from him, and he had kind of been feeling a bit sore. His joints were a bit sore, took some medication, kind of made himself go to work, had some tests done, and he's got osteoarthritis. And the reality is he's 42 years old. He will never be able to work as a plumber again in his life. And so he's on a permanent claim, effectively. Up until age 65, so that's also important. A lot of people say they've got income protection, but they might only have a 2-year benefit. Yep. And after 2 years, you're back to square one.
And so by him having that cover, how has that impacted his life?
Oh, it's made a huge difference to his life. He's got 2 young children. They're similar age to my children, so one's 11, one's 9. They're still totally dependent on him. His wife was working part-time, so that's also a bit of an issue. The reality is now that he can choose what he wants to do. So the insurance company will pay him, and they'll pay you up to 75%. So up to 75% of his income, they will now pay him until he's age 65. He doesn't necessarily have to keep on claiming. So he can choose to be retrained, and they will pay for that. They will also... so they'll pay for any education. They'll pay for him to his income while he's learning, And if he decides that he doesn't like this new job per se, then they'll pay him. And even if the new job doesn't pay as much, they'll make up the difference. And he doesn't have to do that, though. That's the critical thing. He has that choice. The reality is that long term, one actually wants to have a sense of purpose and to work. So it's really good to be able to have this as a sort of backup for him. And but the point is, he's not stressed. And he's gone through an emotional ride because suddenly he can't do something that he loved doing. Mm-hmm. But at least financially, his family's secure. They can still pay their mortgage, and that's the difference. The bank's not knocking at the door.
Great. And I know that, a lot of tradies out there think that the government's going to help me or I'm right, I've got some super. But what's your experience with that?
Yeah, look, again, the reality is that the government's not going to help you, and certainly they're not going to help you in any way close to how you're living at the moment. So, they might be able to give you some income for a while. There's going to be conditions on it. It's the average income pension that they would pay is around about $1,200 every 2 weeks, and don't quote me on that because my figures could be wrong. But it's not enough. It's not a lot, and it's not enough. So the reality is that you've kind of worked hard for a while. You've got yourself into a certain lifestyle position that you want to be in, and suddenly something happens, and they're not in the business of doing that. And if you think that the government going forward is going to be in a better financial position than it is now, there's no chance. The reality is that in 2050, the projections are that 50% of the tax that we pay will go to paying pension and medical expenses for people over 65. So that's 50% of everything. Right? At the same time, they've got to balance the budget with education, etc., etc. So you don't want to be relying on that because it's going to become less and less supportive as we go forward. It is a common misconception that I'll be all right, they'll look after me. The other one is people say, oh, my parents will look after me, or my brothers and my sisters or my family or my friends will look after me. And no problem. The reality is just phone them now before something happens and just check that they okay paying for it. Because people will, and what we find is that anyone who comes to us with a claim, it's not a great time in their lives. Everyone rallies around them. And even in our own business, there's one of our guys there has got cancer. So in the beginning, everyone was, we're going to do this and we'll help you, etc., etc. That lasts for a certain time period.
Sure.
And it can't go on forever because we've also got our own families to run, etc. And so if you're thinking you're going to get that help, it's probably a good idea just to confirm with the people beforehand in writing that you're going to get it.
And I'm sure a lot of tradies and people are quite proud and think they are invincible, but really couldn't be further from the truth.
And that's right. The inherently the tradies are very proud people and can show that they're physically strong. The reality is that if you start working in the trade, and let's say you're 22 years or 20 years or 22 years by the time you qualify, you're going to work until age 60, probably age 65. So you've got 42 years of manual work ahead of you. 95 or 98% of the claims that we see are repetitive strain injury. It's from doing the same thing over and over and over again, and the bodies just can't handle it. And even the guys who are older, who are 40 years old, 50 years old doing it, they're doing it on painkillers. And that's the way that it is. So we're not designed to do that sort of work for that long. And if you think the government's going to make the age pension come closer, it's not. They've actually just pushed it out now to age 67. And over the next few years, because of what I told you previously, it's going to get worse. Yep. So, unfortunately, that's the problem. And people get into, they start off, well, by the time they're 38, 40, we get people coming to us, tradies, saying, I need cover. But it can be almost too late at that stage. We do our best and we're good at getting cover for difficult to place people. But by that stage, if you've already had some issues, you're not going to get insurance. And if you've got insurance, or someone says, I'll give you insurance, the problem that you have is that in all likelihood, there's a little clause in the contract saying that they exclude any pre-existing conditions and they're not going to pay you. So the one thing worse than having no insurance is paying for insurance that isn't going to pay you at time of claim.
Yep.
And nobody likes it. No one wants that. So it's really important to do it properly.
And that's one of the big things that I see as objections from my clients, Adrian, is I'm going to pay all this money into something and probably never claim on it. So why would I have it? I'd be better off just saving the money in the bank, yeah?
No. The simple answer is no. The reality, Warwick, is if you're a tradie, between when you start trading, being a tradie, to when you retire, I can almost guarantee you that you will go on claim in some shape or form. And, remember, we're talking two things here. We're talking income protection, life insurance, critical illness, but also total and permanent disablement. Now, it's quite an interesting factor because, again, I've looked at all of our clients and I said, hey, what happens if these guys, when they were 20 years old, had taken out some total and permanent disablement cover? What would the situation be? And the reality is that I don't know of many tradies who wouldn't be eligible for a payment, who are between 50 and 60, who wouldn't be eligible for a total and permanent disablement payment. So you could set it up that you have $1 million or $1.5 million, and you would get paid for that if you can't work as a tradie. So you get a tennis elbow. And if it's a long-term problem, they'll pay you while you're not working. But if you can't work again, and it's unlikely that you're going to return to your work again as a tradie, not as anything else, they have to pay you the lump sum, $1 million or $1.5 million. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it for the costs of a cup of coffee once every 3 or 4 days? That's what we're talking here.
Yeah. It really is just so critical these days, and really not having it is really a pretty dumb move.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's everyone's got to make their own decisions on it, and but if you get yourself into debt, all you've got to say is, if I couldn't work or something happened to me, who's going to pay that off? Mm-hmm. If you want your children to live the lifestyle that they're accustomed to, or to have the opportunities that maybe you didn't have as a child, there needs to be something in place, and it's just it's a plan B. So what is your plan B? And it's important that you're aware of it. Have a look at it. A lot of problems that we have with tradies is they say, "Oh, I've got some cover," and as soon as I ask them, "Well, what cover is it?" "Oh, I don't really know, mate, but I think it's this." Well, that's not really good enough, because when something goes wrong, you're going to want to know exactly what you're getting.
Yep.
So it's really important that people do it, because often they're paying for cover that will not pay them. So there could be pre-existing conditions excluded. Another really popular one that I see is where it's not guaranteed renewable cover. So every year, the duty is on the insured person to let the insurance company know if anything has changed with their health. Mm-hmm. And if it has, they will exclude that from the contract. The reality is a lot of the guys don't do that.
Yep.
And something happens and suddenly they can't get the money. The best coverage that you can get is cover that is guaranteed renewable. Once you take it out with the insurance company, irrespective of what happens to your health, they will pay you if something goes wrong. They can't then say, this has now become a problem. You hurt your leg skiing. We're not going to cover your knee anymore.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common myths that people have about life insurance, Adrian? I mean, some of the misunderstandings or misconceptions out there?
Yeah, Warwick, well, there's a number. The one is certainly the income protection is a big one. So basically, income protection works. It says if you can't work through any illness or any injury, we will pay you 75% of your income. I get some people thinking that it covers them for redundancy payments. So if they can't work because they've been lost a contract, that they would get paid. They don't. The reality is it's up to the individual's personal exertion. If they can't do that, they get paid. The other big misconception is in terms of pricing. So people think that it's out of their league, they can't afford it. the reality is that you can structure it in such a way that it is affordable. For example, income protection is tax deductible as well, so that's another consideration to take. There's also the misconception that they're going to get cover. I can get it later rather than do it now. The problem with that is that sometimes something happens to you, so you either get a disease or something as small as you twist your knee playing soccer on the beach, and suddenly you have an exclusion or you can't get it. Worse than that is that you're 100% okay, but something happens to one of your family members. So there might be an issue with, for example, some sort of familial trait. Something happens to your father or to your mother or to your brother, and suddenly you can't get the cover because the insurance company is concerned that you might have that same condition.
Okay. So you're really passionate about life insurance and helping people protect themselves and their families. What's made you want to get into this and spread the message?
Yeah, that's always a hard one to answer. I think the reality is I've seen the difference that it makes, and I've seen the difference that insurance doesn't make. So you just got to open the newspaper any day of the week, and you'll see a picture of a guy, his 2 children, and his wife, and he's got some issue with him. And he's asking for his mates to set up a fund to try and help him. And I've seen that difference. I've experienced that personally in terms of my life. I've seen close friends be in that sort of position, and I've made it now my mission in life to try and get the word out to as many people as possible. I don't care if they don't use my services, but the reality is you need to go and have it checked, speak to somebody who knows what's going on, and make sure that it's done properly. That's so important.
And the thing about that, I think that we need to let our listeners know, Adrian, is generally speaking it costs you nothing to actually go and get a review or have a conversation with someone like yourself. Is that right?
That's quite correct, Warwick. It's a strange industry in that you can have a meeting with us. You could probably spend 7 or 8 hours if you really wanted to with us. We can explain everything and you don't get charged 1 cent. And you still don't even have to take out the cover. So it doesn't take that long to do it, but if that was the case, that's how it would be. The other side of it also is there's a misconception about how hard it is to get it done. It's not really hard. We've got processes and people in place to make it easy. So it can be very easy. It just depends on how much you want to know or not want to know. Critically, though, is making sure that you've got the right amount of cover. More critical than that is that at time of claim, you get paid.
Right.
I hate paying for something I don't receive. If I go to restaurants and I order a steak and my steak doesn't arrive, I have a huge problem with that. Same thing here. Why would you pay for something and then you don't get it? And the reality is that a lot of these covers that the superannuation companies, etc., are putting in, it's actually more expensive than doing it properly.
Right.
Not only is it more expensive, but you also run the risk of being underwritten at time of claim as opposed to knowing exactly what cover you can get beforehand. And that's so important.
Right. So if people want to find out more, how can they get in touch with you?
Pretty easy to get in touch with us. Our company is called Stream Financial. We're based in Budrum, but as I said, we've got clients all over. We deal with them telephonically. We've got videos that they can watch. If they want more information, we send them videos on that.
Do you have a website address?
We do have a website. It's www.streamfinancial.com.au. I'm sure we can put the details out
We'll put
somewhere.
the details in the show notes.
Yeah, and I have a telephone number, which I don't know.
Nobody uses those things anymore, Adrian.
Exactly, and an email address. But even if you just Google my name, Adrian Reed, as in read a book, I'll come up on the internet for sure.
Great. Well, thanks for your time today. I'm sure we've got a lot out of it, and our listeners have got a lot out of it, and now know how important it is to protect their asset, which is themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you took the opportunity to have a little snooze just then during that interview, sorry, Adrian. Look, I know life insurance, bit of a dry topic, Michaela.
Yes, and hopefully no one was driving while they nodded off listening to this podcast.
No power naps, please.
But it is important. It is really important, guys, so please take some time. And our one thing today would be, Warwick, is to go get your policies or check or speak to someone, Adrian or someone, and get this sorted.
Just go get it looked at. It costs you nothing, as he said, I think is the big thing there. Go get it reviewed. Myself, personally, I've claimed twice in the last 5 years, and everyone's going to think I'm really unco, and maybe I am, but I've broken both my ankles on separate occasions riding my dirt bike, and I got paid out within 7 days. I got paid out for each injury, no questions whatsoever, and I'm a shiny bum, so that didn't stop me from doing my job. So that's the big thing for me is, don't be a statistic, as they say.
And maybe don't ride a dirt bike anymore.
Yeah, or just don't ride one like me.
Yep. So that's it for another episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find out more, visit tradiesbusinessshow.com and make sure to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode. And hey, we like to be loved, so make sure to leave us a rating or review on iTunes as well. Till next time.
Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark. Want to get off the tools and into true business ownership? Find out how at tradiesbusinessshow.com.